All right, let's do it live on a Reaction Monday edition of the program. And quite honestly, this one can be reacted to similarly as some of the other ones. It's coming in hot. There we go. Yeah, look, they're one of the better teams in the league. They're not playing at their best right now. Was the opportunity there to spring an upset? Yeah, for sure. But this is also what happens when you are not one of the best teams in the league, and we clearly are not that at this point. That when you have a mistake or a series of plays that don't go your way for this team, that snowballs. And there's not a way to stop the avalanche. Once it starts, it's too damn late, and it's done. We saw it last week against Miami at the end of the second half. We saw it this week in the second half. Or in the second quarter in both instances. We are just not able to have much resistance when things don't go perfectly.
No, and it's frustrating. Everybody, if you're listening to this show and you're frustrated, we're frustrated.
Yeah.
The Browns are frustrated. It's a frustrating season. This game felt so similar to so many. We score early. Our defense actually plays very well early. We don't capitalize on that. At one point in this game, I'll have you know, the Browns had 11 first downs. Mm-hmm. The Bills had 0, and the score was 10-3. Because special teams, again, bad punt coverage. Mm-hmm. They get 3 and out, still get a field goal. The Browns just could not take advantage. Drop passes in the end zone on consecutive plays. Mm-hmm. Harrison Bryant's was a little tougher. Farrell Brown's was perfect. Oh, and then here's a familiar thing. Tell me if you've heard this before. Browns on a nice drive. They fumble in the opponent's territory. Browns go for it on 4th down, deep in opponent's territory. Don't get it.
Yeah.
I mean, the Browns, we're going to kick a field goal this time. Blocked, 3rd time this year.
Yeah.
It's a cavalcade of mistakes. And what I came to the realization this morning, and it was, it's not a fun realization, but the Browns are you remember, what was the open for 30-30? 30 for 30. How'd that open go? Can you remind me of that open?
Oh, the ESPN 30
yeah,
for 30?
like how they go. What if I told you?
What if I told you? What if I told you?
What if I told you?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're going to play a little. Just indulge me if you don't mind.
Please, I'd love to.
If
you
don't mind.
I love this.
We're going to do a what if I told you.
What if I told you?
Which is, again, in this case, not fun. But we'll start with this game. Okay, and then we're going to get a theme here, and then we're going to be like, all right, stop, put me out of my misery. And I might. Or I might keep going. Okay. What if I told you?
All right, let's go.
That the Browns would face the Buffalo Bills, and that Josh Allen would throw for 197 yards and 1 touchdown. And that touchdown would go to Stephon Diggs, who would have just 48 yards rushing. And what if I told you Jacoby Brissett in the very same game would throw for 324 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, with a quarterback rating of 116? Would you believe that the Browns would lose that game and really basically lose that game by 15 points? I know we scored at the end to make it an 8-point game, but basically lose that game by 15 points. Would you believe that?
No. You want to do last week's? Because you could do last week's the same way.
Well, I was going to get in that. But at least in that case, Tua still threw for 3 touchdowns.
Right.
And it was good.
Same thing.
Okay. So, yeah, what if I told you Tyreek Hill and Waddle had 110 yards?
110 yards.
Yeah, that you would lose. Well, what if I would tell you that the Browns would go into Baltimore in a game in which Jacoby Brissett would go 22 of 27 for 258 yards, no interceptions, in a game that Nick Chubb would run it for 91 yards and a touchdown, and then on the other side of the ball, for the Baltimore Ravens, that they themselves, you would have Lamar Jackson going 9 of 16 for 120 yards passing and be held to just 59 yards rushing, and that Mark Andrews wouldn't catch a pass. Yeah. You would say, Nathan, it is my belief that the Cleveland Browns would win that football game. And I would say to you, I'm sorry, you would be wrong. And then I'll go back a few more weeks even before that. Let's go to a game against the Los Angeles Chargers, shall we? And if I were to tell you that in this game against the Los Angeles Chargers, that Justin Herbert, one of the most electric quarterbacks in the NFL, would go 22 of 34, 228, 1 touchdown only. Jacoby Brissett would throw for 230 and a touchdown of his own. Nick Chubb would run for 134 yards and 2 touchdowns. Kareem Hunt would run for another 47 yards and a touchdown. You would say to me, boy, I feel like the Browns won that game.
Victory City.
You would be wrong. And that's this team. That's this season. A lot of what if I told yous that feel like the Browns should win the games under those auspices. What if I told you the Browns held the defense? It did. It's a fact. Held the Bills to 6 field goals. That feels like pretty good.
Yeah.
No, not. And this team, it's just disappointing. So many losses that are just so frustrating. And now you're 3-7, and you got to win out to have any kind of a chance, but there's certainly no indication that this team is capable of doing that.
No, I think the one, as we were doing the What If I Told Yous, the one common denominator in, I'm pretty sure, every game you mentioned is that we were absolutely gashed in the run game, almost historically speaking, whether it was
with
the
Chargers
game,
Baltimore.
other than Baltimore, the Chargers game, the Miami game, and this game.
Sure.
171 yards on the ground, averaging 5.2 a carry were Singletary and Cook. It was both of their high season.
That's right.
Individually,
yeah.
Their high rushing marks of the season in one game.
Yeah.
So this is who we are. So we cannot stop the run, and we as a group cannot bow up when things don't go our way. We are when something goes wrong, it goes way wrong, and that's whether that's clutchness it's
Drops.
little stupid stuff, fumbles, punts, special teams, like just stuff that will drive you nuts.
That's right.
The devil is in the details for us. So even if you were what we are, stopping the run, which is brutal, but even if that were the case, if you did the little things, you would have won some of those games. If you just make field goals, you could give up. This team was very clearly, I think, built with the notion that we were going to score a lot of points with Deshaun Watson playing the majority of this season.
Yes.
He is not going to play the majority of this season. We've still scored a decent amount of points, but we made the gamble that teams would have to throw it all over the place to try and chase us because we were going to score a lot with all of this talent on offense. And you can see why that was the case. I think it's also fair to say that feels like a miscalculation here because the Watson penalty went from what was going to be, or you thought would be, 4 to 6, and even initially at 6, it goes to 11. And by the way, this is not, let's be very clear, Jacoby Brissett has been great.
He's not a 3-7 quarterback, and that's the biggest shame in all of this.
It sucks because he's been amazing.
Yes, he's played very well. I mean,
you went through his stats. He's 28 of 41, 324, 3 touchdowns, and a 116 rating against Buffalo. Now it's chasing at the end, so you're doing some statistical accumulation, but he's been this way most of the year.
Here's the thing. For the season, Jacoby Brissett, 65% completions, 11 touchdowns, 5 picks, so that's a 2-to-1, 240 yards a game, and a 91 rating. A 91 rating. Jacoby Brissett is having a career season. This is the best football he has ever played in his career. Career highs in completion percentage. The touchdown to interception ratio is pretty much right on his career numbers. But he's already at a quarterback rating of 105 games. I'm counting the Jets game because he got dinged for that interception at the end. He never should have thrown that pass. He's at a quarterback rating of 100 plus in 5 games so far this year. He is setting by 40 yards a game, the most yards per game he's ever had, the highest quarterback rating of his entire career, the highest QBR of his entire career. The guy's playing good football. He's playing better, winning football, and good enough football, obviously, to win with this team if it played like it did last year. All we heard last year was if we can get competent quarterback play, we're going to be a playoff team. Yeah. Guess what? That was true last year. This year, you're getting definitely competent quarterback play, and you're not winning, and it falls solely, in my opinion, on the defense and on the special teams. They have not been good enough all year long, and it's a repeated problem, and it's not getting any better. And now what's wild about the D is the D puts its mind to something, and it actually does it. I'll give you examples in all those games, right? We got to slow down Justin Herbert. We've got to stop Mark Andrews and Lamar Jackson. We do that. Now, Gus Edwards scores twice, but we averaged 3 yards a carry in that game. New England, we're going to stop the run. And other than one carry in the game where Stevenson roughed a 30-yard touchdown, we stopped the run, but then Bailey Zappi lit us up.
Yep.
This time we're going to go ahead and stop, Tyreek Hill down in Miami and Jalen Waddle. You actually did that.
Yep.
We're going to stop Stephon Diggs. You actually did that. Mm-hmm. And limit Josh Allen. And yet it's not enough because it's almost like we do this one thing, we can't do anything else. We don't generate any turnovers.
None.
At all. It just doesn't happen, and that hurts the momentum, obviously, of this football team. We give it away around once a game. This is a team that's been given away twice. It's just our run defense is atrocious. There is no discipline in terms of gap responsibilities. Our defensive tackles are either blown off the ball. There was one play yesterday where one of our defensive tackles made a tackle on the play, and Jim's like, oh, yeah, he's tackled by the defensive tackle. 6 yards down the field on his back because he had gotten basically just bulldozed by their linemen. And then other plays, our defensive tackles are 12 yards in the backfield, but the play's already 6 yards downfield. Like, what's going on?
What is going on? Yeah.
So it's bad, and it just feels like the thing that I think is hard is There are a lot of people, and I had a teacher in high school, Mark Brager, who used to say, you're shooting your bazoo without a license. There are a lot of people on this team right now, I feel like, shooting their bazoo without a license who are not performing at the level that would necessitate bazoo shooting.
Yeah, and I think that all of these things lead to what is going to be a very critical, not in terms of the playoffs, but just in terms of what this operation is going forward. Like the next 7 games, there's a lot going on here, man. There's a lot going on.
I want this team to put together a performance that allows Jacoby Brissett, if he plays the way that he has been, to win a football game. He deserves to win a game. I'd love him to win his last start. It'd be great for him to beat Tom Brady. The history there with he and Tom Brady in New England, it would be great. And then those final 6 games, how do we look with Deshaun Watson? He's not curing the –
No, he doesn't fix what ails you.
Correct. Now, do we go on as many lulls offensively with Deshaun Watson? Probably not. You hope maybe he makes a play here. But, again, Jacoby hasn't been the problem. All of a sudden, we can't run the ball. Nick Chubb, 14 carries for 19 yards. It's back-to-back games where we've struggled to run the football. But your defense, it's wild. You couldn't
block it in the middle. I mean, they just were crushing us. I mean, we were on third center and all of
that.
But fourth, that's right, fourth center. But it's like, yeah, you felt it. And your point on Brissett, I don't know how many folks realize this, but in QBR is a metric that ESPN put together to like measure.
In fact, they felt like game situation,
everything. And so they felt like it's more accurate than rating.
Yep.
And they've really pushed it for a long time, put a lot of effort into it. So from a QBR standpoint, Jacoby Brissett's QBR is better than Justin Herbert's, Joe Burrow's, and Tom Brady's. He's 6th in the league.
6th in the
QBR.
league.
Like, he ain't it.
He's not the problem.
He's actually playing. Had we had this type of quarterback play for the last couple of years, you're postseason bound every single year. You're winning the division. You're doing all of those things. He's been superb. I mean, I didn't know he was this good. I'll be honest with you, I didn't. But he's been great.
He's been great. The scheme has
two
been
balls
great.
Into the end zone to the damn tight ends go off their hands. My goodness.
I mean, the one
catch
that Farrell
one
Brown
of them.
was...
Catch one of them. Catch. If one of them's a catch, like you have 2 shots.
What
put
about
it off
the one
hands.
Harrison Bryant? Put your foot down.
Yeah, right. He's all off balance.
Why?
Why are you?
You're standing in the back of the end zone.
You're standing there.
Catch it.
Catch it and drop straight. I don't know. It's
the toe drag swag.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's tough. It's frustrating. This one was, it's interesting though when you think about it. So what were you, 8.5-point dogs in this game?
Mm-hmm.
So we cover. But from when I think of this stretch of games, this stretch of games hurts because the Jets, the Chargers, the Falcons, that's where these games
Ravens
hurt. Ravens even. Those are the games where it hurts because you blew it then. You needed to bank. Everybody looked at this schedule and said, you've got to bank some cash, get some deposits in there so that you can live off of it when it goes dry because you knew this stretch was going to be what this stretch has been. Brutal, and it has been.
Yeah.
But losing to this Buffalo team, losing to that Miami team, they sting this badly because you were up 13 with 2 minutes to go against the Jets at home.
Yep.
That's why. Win those 3 games you're supposed to, and these losses, and you say, boy, Watson's coming here soon. We're going to get this all sorted out in terms of he's going to give us a boost, and away you go. And it would have put a little bit of a facade over the realities of where we are right now. And instead, all of those things went catastrophic.
Horribly wrong.
And so that leads to where we are now, where you had to win one of these 3 games. Really you need to win 2. One of them makes it, I don't know, you could try and spin hope a little bit. It's going to be hard.
Well, no, you need to win every game. It's going to take 10-7.
Yeah, you got to win every game out. So, which is a tall.
Well, given
order.
that's, by my calculations, that's 7 games.
Correct.
And we've won 3 in 10 tries. It just doesn't lead to a lot of optimism.
No.
Unfortunately. And it feels it's funny. And Gibbe, I don't know if Gibbe's back.
Yeah.
Gibbe will, so we're up there when the coin toss happened. As soon as we lost the coin toss, we both just looked at each other and we just started shaking our head because it was like, they're going to score going into the half, and then they're going to score coming out of the half. Guess what? They did. That was 10 points. And now in Miami, it was 14 points. Mm-hmm. And it's just like you just knew it was going to happen. And when we were down at the half, it felt to me personally, and I am full of zest. I'm an optimistic guy.
Yeah.
I like to gulp from
Glass
the fountain of life.
full.
Glass 90% full. It just felt to me like at that point I'd seen the movie. I knew I had seen it. I knew what was going to happen, and it did.
Even when they second half, they hold them to 3 right out of the gate. And you go, okay, like we if we can get out of our own way and go down and do something here, the pressure is right back on them. They did not play. Buffalo did not impress. They did not play
They
well.
were sluggish. They went through. I mean, when you were hearing all the stories, it was complete insanity what they went through just to get to Detroit to play this game. And you can't be up by a touchdown only when you have 11 first downs and they have 0.
Right.
They didn't get a first down until I think it was 22 minutes into the game.
Correct.
You need to be up by 20.
They were double digits in total yards.
Before that last drive, it was like 200 total yards for us and 50 for them.
Correct.
For the last drive of the first half.
Correct.
And it's like, and we're at that point, we're ahead 10-6.
Yeah.
How?
Yeah.
It's absurd.
Yeah, it is. It's the it was the same. I felt the same way with it was the Miami game all over again. Score right before half, and you go, because honestly, it was, what was it, 3 at that point? It's 13-10. We're down.
Yep.
It might as well have been 30-10 for me. I'm like, that's it. I don't know. They're going to score coming out of break and all the momentum, and away we go. The same thing happened to Miami.
We had the ball for 20 minutes in the first half, and they had it for 10, and we were losing. Like, that just doesn't happen in the NFL. At the point where we had 11 first downs, 200 total, 4 times the total yards, and we were ahead by 4 points. I mean, it's insane how this has happened to our football team. Just, it's a lack of. There is a severe lack, and this is how it feels to me. And you can agree, disagree. This is how I feel. There is a severe lack of clutch meter on this team. There is a severe lack of just execution of the most basic of details, a consistency in execution, I would say. And it feels like, I don't know if it's a lack of leadership or if it is a lack of somebody who's going to get in people's butts. There is a lack of somebody who says, follow me somewhere.
Follow me to freedom.
And maybe Deshaun is able to do that. But the fact that whenever it starts to, the first sign of it's going to miss, it's just like, we'll see ya. And it's not everybody. There are guys out there competing their butts off. But it is just the way of the collective. The sum is so significantly less. Or the whole is so significantly less than the sum of the parts.
Correct.
It's shocking. Our special teams are atrocious.
Yeah.
Atrocious. They hurt us
every week.
We're thrilled, and we're over here throwing parties when they're neutral.
Yeah.
They're awful. Our defense does certain things well every week, but not enough, and they certainly don't make game-changing plays. Like,
they don't make game-changing plays. They can't stop the run.
No.
Like, it's a sieve.
Can you even think of it? Has there been a game-changing play this year on defense?
I don't want to.
You could say that Miles Tip, picked by A.J. Green, stopped that first drive, and it probably made Cincinnati get in the bad headspace because of everything that's happened with Burrow against us. But other than that, no, the pick against Atlanta was inconsequential.
Well, we haven't had that many turnovers. I mean, we
have 3 picks.
On
the
season.
On the season.
Yeah. So that's, no, there isn't that. But just go over what you said, buddy. How many – if you're not clutch, you don't have fire, and you don't pay attention to the details, you're bad. And that's what we are.
We're 3-7.
That's what we are. That's what we are. And it's the crazy. We're not alone. The Rams are 3-7 on this season. The Denver Broncos are 3-7 on this season. The Raiders are 3-7. It's just the way it's happened for us it just sucks.
Because we're obviously better than what our record is, but at the same time, we're not. We are.
You are what your record says.
We show
right?
portions of games,
Yeah.
And then the Cincinnati game would be the one game where we put it all together. But we show portions of games where you say we can play with anybody, and then we show portions of game where it looks like we should be up for like relegation.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is insane.
And the same stuff, the special teams miscues, the details not being there.
Run defense.
And the run defense, and inability to stop it when it starts to go bad. This is now who you are. This isn't a one-off. Like, this is who we are over the course of a season.
Here's the thing.
Played a lot of games.
Run defense, it feels like, is kind of like playing defense in basketball. Like, it feels like
just want to, right?
It's some want to, some effort, right? I mean, Now, certain teams, the Ravens would be one, but by the way, we did great against them. We helped. Josh Allen didn't damage us running the football at all in this game. In fact, he was 3 carries for 7 yards in the game. He came in as their leading rusher. So in that case, it's really 11 on 9. The quarterback is not a part of the run game, and the guy running the ball is not blocking. There should be 2 guys free every time.
Yeah.
And we are atrocious against the run. And it reminds me, and I believe that it's true, like in the band basketball, I wasn't a great defender sometimes. I didn't care to be. I wanted to get on offense as quickly as possible.
Sure.
Just being honest.
Yeah.
Coaches did not like my philosophy.
Basketball's at both ends of the court, though.
I'll make more shots than my guy, and I'll talk to him. And that also, there is an art of talking that is a part of playing defense as well.
We don't have that either. We don't have that chestiness.
No. It's
just we just don't have it.
It is so frustrating, and I'm going to contrast 2 things. I actually just got a text from S's father, the great FG.
FG.
Yeah, and he shared with, and I'm sure you saw Garrett Wilson's quotes after the Jets game.
I did. Yep.
Okay. Those in tone and tenor are so different than any of the quotes that come out of our locker room after a game. He was basically like, this was unacceptable.
Yeah.
We will get this fixed.
Yeah. He's a rookie.
No matter what. But what happened today was unacceptable. Ours is, sometimes, and Grant may be right. People don't know what they're doing. Miles is saying they're not emphasizing takeaways. Like, that's all they talk about in practice is takeaway. They do. It's obviously something they're emphasizing. We're just not doing it.
Right.
And it feels like more of a pass the buck. It's not me. It's got to be the coaching. It's got to be this guy. It's got to be that. Like, and all any individual player can control is themselves, and that's maybe a recommendation. The focus of their commentary should be themselves. Collectively, it's not good enough, obviously, and you need to be together. But like, I thought Garrett Wilson's quotes were the quotes of a leader, even as a rookie, being like, not acceptable, period, the end.
Yep. Yeah, and that's not it. So that,
like, we've been saying a lot of this stuff, right? Remember, it was the details, and we're going to spend more time in the film room, and we played good against Cincinnati. Well, we had urgency that game, and it's like, now we have no more urgency.
No, there's no urgency.
Now we're not watching film anymore. Like, we beat the Bengals, and we don't need to work anymore. But I know guys are working. And that's what's so hard. And these guys have been playing football their whole lives at a very high level.
Yep.
Like, cover 3s are cover 3s. And yes, there can be different nuances to a cover 3, but that would be maybe a thing if, like, it was changing year to year and you all of a sudden had new coaches and new terminology and new rules for 1, 2, and 3 in your various coverages. We don't.
No.
And they threw the wide open touchdown to Diggs. We also got lucky on another one when Diggs went bonkers on the sideline where we let him run down the field. And Allen looked right at him and didn't throw it to him, which was nuts.
Didn't see it, or
checked it down. He didn't see it.
Looked at it, just didn't see it.
Diggs was jumping up and down, throwing a tantrum, and Gibbe and I were loving it. But it's wild to me that this stuff still happens and that we are incapable of stopping people that don't want to run the ball.
No.
It's very frustrating. Deshaun's not going to cure all of this because Jacoby Brissett's not the problem.
No.
And Deshaun will make it better, and hopefully perhaps maybe just his presence will elevate things. But for a defense that was top 5 a year ago, for a team that you said, okay, if you just scored 20 points a game, you would win the division, which was true last year. That's a factual statement over the final second half of the season. We're doing that every week.
Mm-hmm.
I'm stupefied. I know we changed our defensive tackles. That's a part of the problem, but it's not like the whole issue.
Not all of it. That's not all it.
We didn't
the
lose
two
to the
Maliks
Jets.
were really good last year, but it can't be all of it.
Malik Jackson's not in the league this year.
No,
Malik
I know.
McDowell was, had his issues. He was obviously talented.
Yeah.
That's not when we lost to the Jets. Defensive tackles aren't when we lost to the Jets.
Nope.
It's just I don't know. It's a stupefying season, and it feels like you now are looking at, as you mentioned perfectly, the final 7. I'd love to give Jacoby Brissett the swan song he deserves. Take out Tom Brady in his final game in Cleveland. Be wonderful. And then it's about 6 games. What can we do in those final 6 games with Deshaun? Can we go 4-2, 5-1, 6-0? Can we look like a formidable team to build some momentum? Because it feels like right now, I don't even know what in my mind I could say that the team in 2022 3 is going to look like, other than to say, Nick Chubb, Deshaun Watson, most of the line, Njoku, Amari, Donovan Peoples-Jones. Beyond that, I have no idea.
No, it's hard
and
to
on
say.
defense, it's really hard to say.
Oh gosh, yeah.
What's what?
Yeah, no, it is certainly more questions than answers. Even though we've read the book that we read on Sunday. We've read it many times. Similar issues over and over and over the course of the season.
I think I said to Jim one of the breaks, I was like, it's like being forced to watch a show that you've already seen many, many times, but just don't enjoy.
You don't like it.
I don't like it. I don't.
Why
am
I watching this again? Yeah. Fans of Browns defense recorded 2 sacks yesterday. That means you win a free appetizer today at any participating Northeast Ohio Buffalo Wild Wings location. Terms and conditions apply. Buffalo Wild Wings, the greatest of all times. Coach Stefanski's presser coming up next, I do believe. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. A new way to cheer on your Cleveland Browns with the help of your favorite four-legged companion, Barking Backers, presented by Milk-Bones, the Browns' newest club for pet parents worldwide. Sign up today at barkingbackers.com. Barking Backers, the fan club for dogs. When you talk to people in Buffalo in terms of what they had to do just to get to the game, I mean, I've seen the videos of the guys like snow plows farmers snow plowing guys out of their driveways. How did they even get there?
So, like, I was talking with Bobby Babich, who used to work here back in the Mike Pettin era. He's the linebackers coach for the Buffalo Bills now. Great dude, and spent some time with him pregame, and he was like, this has been the craziest 48 hours of my life. I was like, well, talk to me, brother. So he lives – so if you in Buffalo, there was nothing but everybody south, which is Orchard Park, where the stadium is, all that was just
bombed.
6+ feet, just completely insane. So
vintage Serena.
He lived off of what he said, like a main street, and then to get to his street, there's only one street that comes off the main street, and it kind of goes over like an overpass, and then down into where his like neighborhood is. He's only 1.5 miles from the facility. The snow was so bad that there were 2 cars that tried to make it over the little overpass and didn't. So they were stuck there and left there. So now they can't plow because there are 2 cars stuck there. So they can't plow the overpass. So everybody in this neighborhood is like stuck in this neighborhood because that is the one way out, and they can't plow. So he had to walk on Friday to the facility to work in like 3 feet of snow. And he's like, I was walking through, and finally he gets over this overpass, and he was planning to walk the whole way. And like a fireman, they picked him up and took him there, and then they brought him back to the end. But he still had to walk over the overpass. And he had to do the same to get out to get to the airplane. He had to go walk himself through. And this side, nothing was touched.
And there's no fix here because they can't get over to snowplow it because these cars are stuck on the overpass.
Correct.
Jeez.
And he said there are players who needed, teams of people to get them out just so they could get there. There was a good portion of time where we didn't think we were getting to Detroit. Or we thought we didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't think we were going to play the game. But obviously they made it, and I think you could tell they were a little off and shell-shocked early. Sure. And then we didn't take advantage. But just wild.
What was the crowd like?
It was awesome, actually.
It was hard to tell on TV, like if it was...
It was full.
Was it split, or was it mostly
50-50.
Really?
I think they piped in a little noise for them to give it like a little bit more of a home game feel, but never during the game. And I even noted on the broadcast at one point, I said, everybody's talking about, they get to come in a dome, Well, we get to not play in front of the Bills Mafia. So think about, we converted 2 third downs on the first drive. If you watched the Minnesota game at all the week before, 4 of the 6 timeouts Minnesota used were pre-snap timeouts because they couldn't communicate because it was so loud.
Yeah.
And for the one where we were backed up deep in our own end, like that would have been backed up in front of the Bills Mafia. Like that would be so much harder.
True.
Obviously we didn't win, so it doesn't matter. But that was a factor as well. But there were a lot of Bills fans there. It was cool. I thought it felt like you were at a bowl game. Wasn't the national championship game, but was a
really good bowl game.
Consequence.
Everyone was dialed in and was excited. Yeah. The broadcasters were saying that I guess Amanda Balionis, or I think she's Amanda Renner now. I know her from golf as Balionis. She was on sidelines, and then who was on color?
Lofton.
So they were coming in from San Diego area, and they got stuck. They went through Detroit because that's the connect-in to go to Buffalo, and they got on the plane and took off from Detroit to go to Buffalo when they got the notification that the game was going to be played in Detroit. So they went there and then had to go back to Detroit to play the game.
Why wouldn't they have just told them to hang on, let's see what the ruling is?
I have no idea. Well, I'm sure their flight's not going to wait.
No, but I'm saying, don't get on that flight. You can fly to Buffalo.
Who knows?
Because they made the announcement on Friday.
Yeah, who knows how this air travel, how it goes now. So they were dressed for, Amanda was saying, she was dressed for winter. And so, she didn't even have clothes to wear in 72 degrees because why would you pack for that? When you leave your home, you're going to go broadcast a game in the North Pole.
Outdoors,
not indoors.
No.
72 degrees. I'll tell you, I understand certainly the nostalgia, and you heard Hoff talk last week about playing the Snow Bowl game and what it meant to him. And it was one of the most fun times of his time here, that game in 2007. And I too can understand. You see the snow and you see it, it's so cool. But if you have an ability to build a dome,
do it.
You have to.
Do it.
I just think you want to see football played at its best in perfect conditions rather than sitting out in the middle of all of this stuff. It's just a no-brainer to have 72 degrees or whatever it was at Ford Field, and you walk in and you have your concessions and everything's good and you're watching the game. That, to me, where this sport is going, where there are so many options for us to do with our time and our free time and so many things pulling at us, I think a controlled environment is a necessity.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
I will say that we were in the national radio booth because the Lions had already set up for the Thanksgiving game on Thursday in their booth. We called this game, brother, from the rafters. I've never, like, if you had a fear of heights,
So
you
what's
couldn't
the
have been
national
up there.
radio booth?
It's
Like, is that like CBS or like Westwood One or whatever?
Yeah, uh-huh.
Okay.
And we were way down in one end zone basically, and you could touch the steel beams of the top. Did you see my picture? Like,
No, I didn't see it.
I have to lean when they were in the end zone down to the right. I had to lean out because I was blocked by the brick structure in Ford Field.
Oh my gosh. Oh, you're at the ceiling.
Yes, like I've never been that high indoors. I don't know. I'm obviously going buildings that are 400 feet, whatever, 40
Oh
stories,
my
50 stories, 100
gosh.
stories. But I'm saying in a football game, we've never been higher. So that was after Miami, where we couldn't have been further away from the field in a corner. This was up that steel. And I don't understand how many places have. It's a stunning structure inside. The brick's awesome, which you can see right there. And I was partially blocked by the brick. I had to lean out. There are so many massive. There's a massive steel structure going across. Do you know that on the inside of Ford Field? Like this is all just hanging from the ceiling. It's like built into the sides, but I think maybe it supports the roof.
Okay.
But that's a lot of weight to be under the roof.
That is interesting that the beams would be – so the
Those
steel
are
beaming is –
and they're ginormous
let me see.
steel beams.
So they're all exposed. Oh, wow.
A lot of time those roofs don't have anything on them.
Yeah, that's like the
That's
strength
hanging.
of it is the roof. The roof has the strength in it. So that's hanging in. It's almost like the roof is sitting on top of that
Yeah.
as opposed to it being integrated. I've never been in the place.
Really? It's
No.
nice. I like it. It's cool in there. It's indoors, feels big, but feels intimate at the same time. I'm a Ford Field fan. Yeah.
Did you guys have you drove up Sunday, right? So the team,
Yeah.
our team drove up Saturday.
Saturday.
So
and
was
Gibbe
there
wouldn't
enough?
drive back with me. It was sad.
This is sad. Was there enough like lodging for everybody, or how did all that
Gibbe
work
would
out?
know better than that.
Because there were some rumors that there was
2 hotels,
stuff
maybe.
going around, and there was hardly enough tables for
Here
everybody.
he comes. Here he comes.
Yeah.
The great Gibbe.
There were definitely people that had to pair up. I was not one of them.
Thank God, you're Gibbe. But that there weren't enough, right? Like
No.
I read that on Sunday morning that there was a real concern. Like, wait a second, now all of a sudden we have an extra 300 hotel rooms that we got to have for 2 NFL teams,
Correct.
and it's got to be a certain level. You can't put them at the motor inn.
And I appreciate Mr. Zagura's offer to ride home,
Yeah.
but it was a mess trying to get 2 teams loaded out. One going in one direction, one going halfway in one direction, and half in another direction. Like the Bills kept some stuff there, but were packing up. The Bills flew home yesterday.
Okay.
After the game, they were
there's
they were
only
like,
one tunnel.
we are going back home to Buffalo.
There's
we
one
have things
tunnel.
that need to be done. We have families that need
Yeah.
their people's help.
There's only one tunnel, so everything had to go out the same area. All the buses had to be in the same area.
If you were underground yesterday post game, it was a mess because there were 2 different food lines. Buffalo had their side, but everything underneath overlaps. So like your locker room is right next to like the visitor press media room, and our press like there's people just going back and forth.
When Gibbe texted me, we just got to the facility. I had already been eating deconstructed chicken pot pie, by the way, which was phenomenal.
I got to get this recipe.
was
I'm so
unreal.
intrigued by what she tried to do here.
She didn't try. She
Crushed it.
and
God, this
I'd already had a glass of a Grenache Zin blend from Paso Robles, which was fantastic.
And we had no heat on our bus.
And he's like, "Yeah, we just got to the facility." I was like, "I've been home for an hour."
Gibbe.
Hey man, there was stuff to do. Post game is just as important.
So give me this pop. How did she pull it off? Well, we don't go through all the details, but
I don't even
crushed it.
know. When I came home, it was ready.
God, she's a force of nature.
And it was
Unbelievable.
just delightful.
What?
I got it.
What a woman.
Hold on. By the way, since this is on here, I see under there. Show the people.
Oh, yes, the Fighting Bobcats.
Dominant.
55-21. I thought Game Day did a hell of a job. I thought they crushed it. They did a really
They whiffed on the picker. It should have been you.
Who
well,
was
it should
the
have been
picker? 'Cause I never
Faldo.
saw
Sir
it.
Nick.
Remember we said he was angling for it. So College Game Day was at Montana State, Cat Grizz as we call it, and it was. They did a great job of painting the picture of it all. I thought they did a good job of giving you a little bit of color. Some of the vignettes they did were really, really hit home. Couple of things. Faldo can't be the. He's lived there 6 months, and he lobbied for it.
I don't
so,
know.
Like,
I feel like in retrospect, when he made that video, he had already known. Don't you think?
not from what I understand. I think they were trying to find people who were either graduates of Montana State.
Like that?
It's hard to get into the state. It was 5 degrees. So it was pretty cold. So it's hard to get people to come in and do it. Maybe my guy Michael Keaton maybe doesn't watch college football or something. I don't know, but I thought he would have been perfect because
Yeah.
he's lived there for a long, long time.
Kilborn, though.
Kilborn would have been ideal. I just don't know if he would have could he got up there. I don't know.
Well,
he
does
would have been great.
ESPN want him up there?
Well, that's true too. I don't know. I mean, that didn't end all the best. I think he came back for one of the reunions. The other thing, I thought the funniest thing was I did see this. I don't know if I saw it on a sign or a tweet that said, and I know Kirk well. I know that he's not picking his clothes. Like, I don't know if you saw what Herbstreit wore. So the tweet was, Kirk Herbstreit is wearing what John Dutton is fighting to keep out of Montana. And that's pretty much it. He pretty much nailed it. Like, if I saw, so he looked like, honestly, like Jim Carrey when he goes to meet the girl at the date in Dumb and Dumber, and he's wearing like all the gloves and the hat and all that stuff. That's kind of what it looked like a little bit to me with Herbie. I'm like, that. I've never seen anybody look like that who's from the state.
Have you seen this that just got tweeted to us?
No, it is. I can't even. Now, where's that? Don't even say it out loud. We got to do some reconnaissance. I got to see where that is.
Yeah.
But it was good. They did a good job, and so it was beautiful, as I thought it would be.
I do want to shout out. I know they're not listening, but literally the people that work at Ford Field
They're
and for
awesome.
the Lions.
Maybe they are listening. They loved us on DLD.
They did.
They were spectacular. Shout out to Chavis and Phil Dangerfield, who literally put this together, and it was hour by hour. Like, we're riding up on the bus, and we're getting reports that the Bills are now delayed.
Yeah.
And then they were delayed again. And it's like, okay, here's this hotel. How do we make the best of it? There's a wedding going on with 300 people at it. Like, and the people at Ford Field on Friday, anytime I had a question, I sent an email. Within 10 minutes, it was answered. It was taken care of.
That's great.
Whatever we needed. It was shout out to all parties. It came together. I thought it was a really cool atmosphere. It was a lot of fun. And,
Yeah.
unfortunately, we didn't win. But
Yeah. Yeah, it was amazing. You could, in 48 hours or a little bit more, you could, like, plan an NFL game and actually do it. It's pretty remarkable. All right, Coach Stefanski is coming up next from the podium today. Cleveland Browns fans, skip the chore of laundry. Enjoy life, not laundry. Tide Cleaners is offering 30% off dry cleaning for the month of November. Just mention the promo code Browns. Visit TideCleaners.com to find the location closest to you. Some exclusions may apply. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland.
ESPN Cleveland.
Bo here for my friends at Renew Home Exteriors. Upgrade the look and value of your home with new siding from Renew Home Exteriors, ranging in every architectural style and over 50 colors. Save thousands this month during the Renew Home Exteriors end-of-year siding sale. 24 months, no payments, no interest. Take advantage of end-of-the-year deals before January 1st price hikes kick in. Beautify your home. Premium siding, roofing products at lower prices with Renew Home Exteriors. Visit renewestimate.com. And now here's Coach Stefanski at the podium.
Okay, injury.
You're down.
Ethan Posick has a knee injury. That'll be in the weeks, but not entirely sure how many weeks that is. Jack Conklin with that foot injury should be okay. You know, obviously looking back on that game, just some really missed opportunities is what it was. You go play a good football team. You got to capitalize on opportunities when you get down in the red zone. You got to come away with sevens. We just didn't capitalize on opportunities. And then in the second half, we got to find a way to get a stop and play complementary football. And we just didn't do that. And that's when you get those results that we got yesterday. So we got to find a way. Got another good team this week coming to our place, and we got to find a way to go 1-0 this week. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Coach. I know we've talked to you a lot about the defense and the run defense in particular. And I know you've tweaked practices and scheme and personnel. You're still not getting the results you want. How concerning is that?
Yeah, I think to your point, Tom, you know, you are trying to do anything you can to get the results you're looking for. So in order to play good run defense, schematically, we got to make sure that we can play fast, can fit our gaps, be sound in everything we're doing. And didn't do that yesterday enough. You got to tackle, you got to run the ball, all those things. So we'll continue to look at it and find a way, because teams are going to continue to try to run the football. And we got to stop it.
Hey, Kevin, after the game, Miles said not enough importance is being placed on takeaways in practice. And Grant said you can't have faith in your teammates if guys don't know what they're doing. Do you feel like the defense is at like a fracturing point, and how do you keep it together?
I think when you're 3-7, there's frustration. I mean, that's what we are today, 3-7. But bottom line is we got to be, every person in this building, players, coaches, staff, you name it, have to have that attitude of fixing anything that needs to be fixed. And that's where our focus is today. I can't speak to those specific things that those guys said, but those are conversations I'll have with our guys.
And will Yelda stay in at center for Ethan?
Yes.
Yeah, Kevin, we've talked so much about the defense, right? Where, Miles, about the practice, there's guys that are questioning the game plan. How concerning is it when it's year 3 of this? A lot of these players have been here for a long time. Joe Woods has been here. How concerning is that it's year 3 and they're still having issues?
Yeah, I go back to, it's frustrating to be 3-7. There's frustration that comes with that. I get that there's negativity that comes with that, but we're going to focus on what we can do better, focus on things that we can control. And what we can control this week is finding a way to go get a win.
Hey, Kevin, kind of off of that, but when you're game planning to try to get this win this week, and guys saying that they're maybe having a hard time understanding what they're supposed to be doing and the coverage they're supposed to be in any given moment, how do you address that? Is it slowing things down and walk through a practice? Is it changing how the plan is delivered, adjusting teaching style? Are those things that you're considering when you're looking at those kinds of issues?
Yeah, I think to your question, Cam, and this is for all sides of the ball, you're always trying to give your guys a plan that they can go play fast. I mean, that's when you get to Sundays, you don't want to be thinking, you want to be reacting. So we look at all those things. We look at walkthroughs, how we conduct walkthroughs, how often we do a walkthrough. All those things are important in your preparation, because it does come down to your preparation. Having said that, what's important for our players, what's important for our coaches, is to put together a plan for this week. We can control this week, and that's what we're going to do.
Okay, and Deion Jones, 8 plays yesterday. What was that all about? He was not on the injury report.
Yeah, just the course of the game. Taki playing Mike linebacker for us was doing a nice job, and then obviously Joe K was playing a ton.
The block on Cade York yesterday, was that low trajectory or a breakdown in protection? What did you see?
Yeah, I think it was we got to look at it. It's a focus of ours that we got to make sure we're working on with Cade. Got to have a high trajectory on those kicks. Something we're just working on.
Yeah, Kevin, perhaps similarly, just wondering, do you, when you look out there at your defense and at your players, do you feel like they know what their assignments are, what they're supposed to be doing, that they're prepared for the game plan as much as they possibly can be?
Yeah, I do, Mary Kay. And listen, mental errors and those type of things, they happen in football. So I'm not naive to say that we're going to play the perfect game, but I think these guys work really, really hard during the week to make sure that they have a very firm grasp of what we're doing. When the other team makes a play, they make a play, but you got to tackle and get them on the ground. But overall, understanding what we're doing, I think the guys are putting in the work.
Hey, Kevin, it seems like once something bad happens, then it kind of tends to snowball for you. You get the fumble and then a couple of things go bad from there. How do you stop that from happening in game where one, mistake doesn't turn into 10 mistakes?
Yeah, you make your own luck, Scott. I really believe that. You got to make one play. One play, to your point, might turn the momentum of a football game. But that's on us to go make those plays.
And what contributed to so many negative runs from Nick yesterday? That's really unusual for you guys.
Yeah, they, first of all, they did a nice job, and that scheme that they were penetrating. There are things that we can do to give Nick and our backs a better opportunity, but we have to run the ball better, obviously, and I think we will.
Coach, you mentioned Jeremiah before. He was all over the field yesterday. Just a matter of him feeling better. I know he had a good week of practice.
Yeah,
30.
Played a lot. Played sideline to sideline. Wasn't perfect. There's plays I know that he wants back, but gave great effort, trying to fight to get guys on ground, fight to get the ball out.
And back to the block field goal, was there just low trajectory there? What was the breakdown there?
Yeah, I don't think it was protection.
10.
Can't measure exactly the trajectory, those type of things, but that is an emphasis for all kickers are trying to make sure that they get great trajectory on those kicks.
You're up.
All right, Joe Thomas up next. You'll listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Elk and Elk Serious Lawyers, serious injuries, call 1-800-ELK-OHIO for a free case review. Elk and Elk's a proud partner of your Cleveland Browns as we bring back the Hoff, Joe Thomas, for the second hour of the program. Well, we've read this book before, haven't we, Hoff? Mistakes on special teams,
and we don't like it.
Mistakes on defense, and an inability to overcome any of it, and then just get gashed in the run game again by an opposition. So this had a similar script to us. What was it like for you, sir?
This book is not on Oprah's favorite things book list, that's for sure, because nobody likes it. I'm tired of seeing us not be able to stop the run. That was my big takeaway from the game. You can't win NFL games if you just absolutely can't stop the run. I understand that, sometimes teams are going to get one on you, and sometimes teams have really tough rushing attacks, and you're going to give up some things in the running game if somebody's just really good and really committed to it, because maybe you don't want to give up some big plays in the passing game. But until we're able to consistently stop or at least just limit the run a little bit, the team really almost has no chance, because we don't have the type of an offense until Deshaun Watson comes back to be able to put up 30-plus points every week and to be able to explosively score like you saw if you watched the Sunday night game with the Chiefs and the Chargers. Like, if Mahomes is your quarterback, it doesn't matter if you can't stop the run, because the other team can't go the long, hard way running the football, even if they're gashing you, consistently enough to compete with a quarterback that's scoring in 2 or 3 plays. But we don't have that right now. And so if we want to be competitive next week, we got to be able to figure out a way to stop the run. And clearly, from a personnel standpoint, we don't right now have the defensive line and linebackers to be able to stop the run. So we're going to have to try to do it with scheme. And if the back end is going to suffer because of that, they got to figure it out, because those guys are pretty good in the back end. Several of them are paid highly to be able to communicate, to be able to get things done and to win in man coverage. If we have to attack the line of scrimmage with some run blitzes to try to stop the run, because dying this death of a million paper cuts right now against everybody's rushing attack is a book that I don't want to read anymore.
Same.
Throw it in the trash.
Same.
Yeah, that's right. We don't need any of that.
Done.
Hoff, how do you – it just feels like this team – and we talked about it in the first segment. I hate to even revisit it, but we'll talk about it with you because you're such a fine gentleman. It's like the first sign something goes wrong, it's just over. We fumble in their territory, it's over. We go for it and fourth down their territory, and we don't get it, which is those two things have happened in consecutive games, both. It just feels like we crumble. I mean, at one point in this game, we had 11 first downs. They had 0, and it was 10-3. And then we had 200 and something yards of offense, and they had 50, and it was 10-6. Like, how does this happen? And what? I don't know. This team's lacking. I said, what did I say? Clutch meter, execution, and leadership in a massive way. And I don't know how to fix it. I don't know, Hoff. I'm at a loss.
Hope breeds effort, right? Michael Irvin, one of the show's favorite characters that I don't know if he's ever even been on the show, but we talk about him all the time.
He has.
And that, oh, yes. Oh, that's
yeah.
joyful.
Oh, yeah.
What a great man for taking the time.
Do you remember many
hosts.
years ago, Hoff? I think Hugh was the coach, and he brought Playmaker in to, like, talk to the team.
Yeah. I think actually it was Chud, because him and Chud, I want to say,
Chud? Okay.
Dallas.
Miami together, maybe.
Okay.
There was a Miami connection between.
It was a long time ago, yeah. And then he came on and did the show,
in.
and he was great.
Yeah. Whew. Yeah. Oh man, Irv was, when he was in front of the room, it was bad timing, because it was like our bye week, and it was the thing we had to do before we got out of town.
Oh.
So people weren't exactly excited to have like a long speech, but I will say the Playmaker, he brought it. Like, he took his pre-workout before that meal, and there was about 30 minutes of Irv up there just sweating like a preacher in front of the room, giving all his best effort, which was awesome.
Did you ever say to yourself, boy, I'd love to travel the country with this guy?
The world
on Wednesday nights for the next few years?
I'm sure you're surprised to hear it, but it was not going across my dashboard at that moment in my life. I was thinking about trying to get to the bye week so I could get sitting in this tree stand and get a couple days away from Berea, but we digress a bit. But either way, Irv, the thing he said almost every week was hope breeds effort, and I would always tease him about saying it all the time, but it's so true in this game where wins and losses come down to 1, 2, 3 points.
Yep.
You saw it so often early in the season. When you have a team that has maybe a couple players you can lean on, whether it's their leadership from an emotional standpoint, a vocal standpoint, or their performance standpoint, you believe in those guys and you have hope that in those big moments, because you've seen it before, that they're going to stand up and they're going to win the moment. They're going to make the big play. And no matter what the scoreboard says, you know those plays are going to be there, and it's your job as one of the Indians to be able to just make sure that the table is set for when that Chief is ready to come in and make the big play. And we've got a few of those guys, but we don't have enough of those guys right now. And we don't have that dude that, like the Chiefs we were just talking about a minute ago with Patrick Mahomes. I did a podcast with Mitchell Schwartz today, and he said, those guys never panic. They never even get worried. They get behind in almost every game, and if you're on Chiefs Twitter, like everybody's freaking out all the time, but they're cool as a cucumber. Patrick, he never gets emotional. Andy Reid, he never gets worked up on the sidelines if they're behind, like, because they know that it doesn't matter what the score is, because they're going to be able to find what they need at the end. And as long as Patrick Mahomes has the ball with more than a few seconds left on the clock and it's a one-score game, they're going to win. And so all those guys that are role players know that it's up to them to make sure that they do everything that they need, you know, within the confines of what they're asked in their offense or their defense, to just get their job done, to stay within that one score, to just keep plugging along and giving that great effort, that great focus that they need, and that the Patrick is going to make the play. Unfortunately, we don't have that guy right now. And so these guys, as soon as one play goes the wrong way, it's like, oh, it's over. And then the focus drops, the effort drops, the intensity drops, and then things get sideways. Whereas a game, when you watch the first quarter, you're feeling really good about things. You're thinking, hey, man, you're talking yourself into all the stuff we talked about pregame. Hey, Buffalo, a lot of adversity this week. They get in town late. They're thinking about their families back home in the blizzard. It was supposed to be a home game. Now it's sort of a neutral site. You jump on them early. You maybe have a chance to get ahead of him. Josh's elbow's hurting. He's not playing at his best right away. But then one play goes wrong, and everyone's like, oh, here we go again, right? It's like, here we go again. It's the same thing that we as fans get when we're watching the team.
Joe, there's two. I think people think leadership is only just one way. There's two types of. There's positive leadership, and there's a million ways to do it, as you've articulated with Mahomes and Reid, and a belief and a quiet. And then you can be chesty, but you have to be honest to yourself, right? You have to be who you are. Otherwise, it comes across as not being genuine. The other type of leadership is negative leadership, and it does feel like it's some of the way that we're operating right now, and especially notice in the post game, it's almost like, well, that's not my fault. That's you. Now, they're not so much finger pointing as saying it's you,
coaching,
but it is a lot of passing the buck, as opposed to we aren't right. We screwed this up. It's on, you know what I mean? Like, it feels like we want to pass the buck a lot right now with this team, and that's almost as disappointing as the results to me.
Yeah, you definitely would like to see people take more ownership post-game. I think losing is impossible in the NFL, and at first glance, you're like, what does that mean? Well, what I'm saying is it's impossible to stand up in front of the media after, losing six of the last 7 right now, and really say anything that anybody's going to like to hear.
Yeah.
Right. As coaches, as a player, I love when coaches stand up and say, it's my fault. It's on me. Right. Like, they take it. But then from a fan standpoint, if you hear the coach saying that after a bunch of losses, you're like, well, call some people out, hold some people accountable. Right. It's kind of the same thing with the players. Like, if they stand up there and every week it's like, oh, it's my fault, it's my fault, it's my fault, it just kind of feels hollow and phony, like that's just your go-to line. So really, in the end, you just got to play better. You got to hold each other accountable in those meeting rooms and on the practice field, and then you got to win, because no matter what they say after a game, nobody's going to be happy with. Now, certainly, the last thing you want to hear, though, is it's somebody else's fault. You want to say, maybe if the player says it's me or it's we, you're a little bit more okay with it, but passing the buck by pointing the finger at somebody else, maybe even indirectly or passive aggressively, I don't like that either. That's probably my least favorite thing to hear after a game.
Yeah, it's frustrating, and then of course everybody gets asked about it, right? So Kevin Stefanski gets asked about it, and he says, Miles speaks for Miles, and it just feels like, your star you don't want in the middle of these types of situations, and it's obviously it happened last year in New England, and it happened, it's happened more recently. It feels like every day on Friday there's some type of subtle comment that is made. What would your advice be to Miles, or your advice be to Kevin Stefanski in dealing with that? Because it doesn't, at least it's not translating to win. So you can't make the argument that it's productive at this point.
Yeah. I think for Miles, he's finding his way to be the leader on this team, because clearly he's one of the best defensive players in the NFL. He's naturally a quieter guy, but he's accepting the role of leader and trying to be the person within that locker room that players look to, but that he can also hold those other guys accountable. And without being in the building, it's hard for me to know like what that looks like when the media isn't there, right? Because most of what those guys do during the season, the media is not there to watch.
Right.
So we have no idea, kind of how players are holding each other accountable and things like that. All we see is what happens on game day, and then a little bit of, during after practice or during media sessions. And so I think Miles is trying to figure out the best way to try to motivate this team, because I think one thing that he said that everybody who's a Browns fan believes, and is maybe our biggest worry, is, hey, there's some real studs on this team. I mean, you look at Amari Cooper and Myles Garrett, like those two dudes are real studs. You look on the offensive line, Joel Bitonio, Wyatt Teller, like Jack Conklin, like there's some real studs. Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, like the Chief this year has been playing really well. Like we got dudes that are in the prime of their career, and you feel like we're kind of wasting it right now.
Yeah, it's painful. It is. And I think what's really –
but only those studs could stop it, right? I understand coaches can put them in the right position, but like –
yeah, it's cumulative. I mean, it's all of it. Yeah, they have to. All of it. I mean, the reality is you're a 3-7.
We're not that good then.
No, we're a 3-7 football team is what we are. And Joe, I think the thing that's going to be really challenging, yeah, there's still a glimmer of hope, like you win every game you play, and I suppose that matters when you're in a room, but that's really, really difficult. This thing can really go sideways here too, and that's the last thing. I mean, even more so than it already is. You've been in these, unfortunately. You know what this is kind of like a little bit. How do you make sure that this doesn't go too far off the rails here?
Yeah, so putting myself in Miles' shoes, unfortunately, being in that situation before, and putting myself in Joel's shoes, because I know he's one of those leaders on the offensive side of the football. What are you selling to the guys that brings that focus on practice and preparation, and then gives you the effort and the focus you need on game day? And if you're sitting up there trying to sell like, oh, we can still make the playoffs, you know what? You may have some guys buy in, but you may have some other guys being like, that ain't happening, right? Like, we're not making the playoffs where we are right now, especially where we are based on the momentum of the season to this point, where we started pretty good and we've really kind of backslid the last 6-7 games. So you got to sell maybe potentially, not saying we don't have a chance to make the playoffs, but you're trying to emphasize something else. So what are you trying to emphasize? Like, hey guys, this is really important how we finish this season, because a lot of these dudes are going to be here next year. And we want to finish this season strong for this team and the guys that are going to be here next year, because Deshaun's coming back in 2 weeks, and everybody has known since he got here that he's the future, the long-term future. And we knew it could be tough until he gets back, because you're playing with a backup quarterback who, by the way, has exceeded expectations. Like, none of this is on Jacoby right now. He's been great.
Yes.
But you need to sell to the people that are going to be here next year that we have an opportunity to build something and finish this season strong. And then whatever happens with the records happens. You know, we had this really cold stretch in the middle of the season, but we were able to finish strong. And then however the AFC North unfolds, it unfolds. Some of that's going to be out of our control based on Cincinnati and Baltimore. But we want to finish this strong because we're starting to build something for next year when Deshaun is hopefully with us for 17 games. And, oh, by the way, if you're one of those guys that maybe isn't going to be in Cleveland next year, it's still important because you're trying to find a spot somewhere else in the NFL. It's a little bit like what happens towards the end of the preseason, right? The guys that are playing, that are starters, we're trying to put things together and build some momentum for the season. And then the guys that maybe don't make the team, you're trying to make an impact for your own self to be able to find a location somewhere else in the NFL to continue your career. So you may not be thinking playoffs and may not be looking at the records the way you were earlier in the season, but the rest of the season is just as important for this team because there's a lot of dudes that are going to be here, and we still have a lot of talent here to be able to maybe build something really special for next season.
Yeah, and it's sad to think that that's what we're already looking forward to. You know what I mean? I think that's what's so disappointing for so many of our fans and obviously the guys on the team as well. That's where we're at. Yeah, I don't I don't even know what to say, Huff. It's not pure joy. It's the opposite.
No. Yeah. Yeah, it is the opposite. I mean, we want to be sitting here and going, well, all right, we got these games left, and if Cincinnati loses and then, Baltimore struggles, or, you want to be playing that game, the schedule game. That's so much fun. That's where pure joy is for fans, is your team's playing well, and you're looking at the playoff race, and you're trying to figure out what do we got to do to win the division or make the playoffs, and then who has to lose, and that makes every game in the NFL then fun to watch. And that's what's great about the NFL. There's only 32 teams, so, like, for the most part, you've got a rooting interest in almost every single one of those games. Now, of course, it's always fun to cheer against the Steelers and against the Ravens. And, it's not as much fun for me to cheer against the Bengals because I do like Joe Burrow personally. I really like who he is as a quarterback and stuff. But you sure as hell better bet that I'm going to cheer against him if it means the Browns' success or failure within our own division. But, like, you lose some of that joy when playoffs is not on the line. So you have to just kind of shift your focus as a player and as a leader on that team to still talk about the importance of building this team. And right now, it's almost like bowl practice, right? Like when you were in college, I was not an Ohio State Buckeye, so I didn't get to play in the Rose Bowl and the national championship and play for true championships at the end of the season. But that bowl practice was still really important because you wanted to win the bowl game, obviously. But you were trying to build a unit, camaraderie, coordination, teamwork, make yourself and your team better for what you guys have coming back. And that doesn't always necessarily start after the season. Like right now, if you don't have playoffs immediately on the line, hey, Deshaun's coming back. Let's build this team and see what our potential is going to be for next season when Deshaun's there the whole year.
Huff, you're the best. Have a great Thanksgiving, buddy.
Thanks for having
he's
me,
sticking.
guys.
Wait, he's sticking around? Oh, I thought this was it. We have a whole hour of Huff.
It's the Joe
Was I getting fired in the middle?
No, I
Fired
thought he
halfway
was
through
just
the Joe Thomas hour.
I didn't know the whole second hour. I thought we had
Joe,
to.
I'm sorry.
You guys were acting like I got to go. Then
Don't hassle the Huff.
No. I needed to
I'm
get
like,
a break.
I haven't even asked him about
Don't
turkey yet.
hassle
I
me.
haven't.
Gibby, you're fired.
Unbelievable. Huff
I
will
had the
remain.
full hour
Give
planned
me, you're
out.
fired.
Hoff will remain.
you're done.
We'll go around the league,
All right.
and we'll get his turkey recipe as well. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. The Bath Authority gives you the bathroom of your dreams. Why not transform your bathroom from its current status to a spa-like experience? Let the Bath Authority make it a reality for you at a fraction of the cost of the competitors. The Bath Authority is our area's premier bath and shower remodeler. They're experts and factory trained. You give them a call now, you get $500 off your next custom bath and shower remodel. Call 216-220-8399 or go to thebathauthority.com. It's where affordability meets quality. The largest selection of bath projects. They're all made in the United States. Change your bathroom from outdated to outstanding. Acrylic tubs that insulate and keep the heat in. Tub to shower conversions. If you need them, they got them. Superior products with expert installers at thebathauthority.com. And we continue with the Joe Thomas Hour. That was my fault.
That's okay.
I blew it. You blew it, boy. Sorry.
That's
Huff.
all right. Don't worry about it.
Sorry.
Don't hassle the Huff.
I would never do that. Huff, let's start by going around the AFC North, boys. And, boy, this was one the Bengals had to have. If you look at their schedule the rest of the way, it's brutal, especially juxtaposition to Baltimore's, which is a cakewalk. I think it's going to be uphill for Cincinnati to win the division anyway. They're a game back. They don't have a tiebreaker right now. But
Baltimore's not very impressive.
They're not.
Though.
But look up. Do you have Cincinnati's schedule up?
I know that. I know a tough Baltimore or easy Baltimore.
Baltimore's is a cakewalk. Cincinnati's is absolutely brutal. They had to have it. They got it. I will give credit, though, to Pittsburgh because they're 3-6. They're playing with a rookie quarterback, and they had a lot of fight. TJ Watt was great in there.
He's a
battling.
Game changer.
Hoff, what did you make of that in the late window, that Bengals win in Pittsburgh?
Well, Joe Burrow is kind of continuing his spectacular streak here. Started out a little bit slow because he missed training camp, with the appendicitis. And I think as a quarterback, especially a young quarterback who relies on a lot of pocket passing, just having that reps in training camp to get the timing down with your receivers, I think is really important. And when you lose that little edge that I think Joe Burrow had at the end of the season, going to the Super Bowl. But he's got it back, obviously. 355 passing yards and 4 touchdowns against, pretty solid Steelers defense when TJ Watt's breathing down your neck the whole game. Impressive. And I like the Bengals to win the division. I am not impressed with the Ravens. I know that I have an unlimited amount of respect for John Harbaugh and his kind of ability to motivate and lead and get those guys to play at their best. But this Ravens offense is kind of putrid. They only scored, 13 points against the Panthers, and they had plenty of opportunities. I mean, I think Lamar Jackson is playing well, but he just doesn't have any weapons right now. They can't run the ball, and everybody basically just blitzes him, and they just don't have any answers. Yeah, I mean, they got nobody to throw the ball to down the field. He's always relied on his tight ends, but even that's kind of dried up a little bit without a running game. So I don't know if I really believe all that much in the Ravens down the stretch, even though their schedule is quite a bit easier.
So just to give you guys an idea, Z, here's Cincinnati. At Tennessee, Chiefs at home, us at home, at Bucks, at Patriots, Bills at home, Ravens. That's their next 7.
Yeah, legit.
Yeah, ambitious. Conversely, and I agree with Hoff in terms of what the Ravens have been, they are 7-3, so they have the game advantage. And I don't know that there's an easier stretch here in the league. They're at Jacksonville, Broncos at home, at Pittsburgh, at us, Falcons at home, Steelers at home, at Bengals. That's Baltimore's last 7.
Jeez.
It's going to be tough.
That is
tough for the Bengals.
It is going to be tough.
But you know what? They're playing good ball right now.
I agree.
I did want to, just quick follow-up, and I would love to hear your guys' comments. I've been really impressed with Kenny Pickett, and I don't like that as a Browns fan because for a rookie quarterback to kind of play with as much moxie and to see the type of performance he's had so quickly in an offense that I don't really love Matt Canada's offense, to be honest. I don't think it's all that creative. I don't think it's real dynamic. But Kenny Pickett's really kind of impressed me, and maybe that upsets me maybe more than how the Browns have played right now, because that means that they're not going to have this extended period of looking for a franchise quarterback that kind of a lot of people expected.
Well, they get a lot of weapons, and they've got a good ground game with Najee, so that helps. Like they can spin it a little bit. He has been better in recent weeks, the last couple. But yeah, I mean, he's a rookie quarterback. He's finding his way a little bit, and for them, I think, I think they probably anticipated this to a certain extent, that this is how it would go. And I just was impressed that the way that they fought against Cincinnati. Cincinnati had to have it. So Jamar Chase is out of the crutches, and he was walking. And the anticipation is that he's going to play against Tennessee. So that's the only reason they didn't put him on IR.
Back this week.
Okay. Is what they're thinking. Nothing official, but that's kind of what they're thinking on at this point is that's kind of the way that it's going. But long term, when you look at, I mean, we are such an unknown long term in terms of what we're going to look like. We have certain things that we know. We've got young guys who are locked in. We know who the quarterback's going to be. We know who the defensive end's going to be. We know who the interior of the offensive line is going to be, and so forth, Nick Chubb, et cetera. But Cincinnati long term, their operation is pretty turnkey.
Yeah.
They're set up.
They are set up very nicely. I thought T. Higgins was great yesterday for them, leading the way. They got a lot out of Samaje Perine when Mixon went down. I like the Bengals. When you can, this is the way I feel, Huff, and maybe it's a philosophical difference that I'm starting to have, but and you see the Browns make the move for Watson. When you can score, you can play with anybody. I think it's much easier to say that we're good enough to score X number of points every week than it is to say we have to limit teams to 17 every week. I just think that's hard in the NFL today.
Yeah.
And the Bengals can score.
Yeah, I agree. And maybe this is my twist of optimism as Deshaun comes back in 2 weeks. Like, we could have a totally different perspective if Deshaun comes back and all of a sudden this offense is dynamic like we kind of hope. I mean, we don't know what the expectations are, right? The guy hasn't played NFL football in a long time. We don't know what he's going to look like within our offense, but like having that dude at quarterback that can make so many plays, not only throwing it, but just winning when things break down with his legs, opens up everything in your offense, including your run game. And now our run game had been really good. Obviously, this was one of our worst performances rushing the football, but it'll be really fun to see what this team looks like when you got that guy at quarterback, because on defense, which has been a massive, I want to say embarrassment on defense this so far.
I think it's fair.
Yeah, it's fair.
I don't think that's unfair. It's been bad. We thought this defense was going to keep us in a lot of these games until Deshaun came back, right? That was sort of what we were selling. Run game, Jacoby don't make mistakes, great defense. The defense has been bad. And when Deshaun comes back and all of a sudden you're scoring those points at a high clip, now maybe that changes the philosophy on defense where you're saying, hey, we don't have to worry about limiting them to 10 or 13. We can take more chances. We can be more creative. And I think that's been one of the fair criticisms of Joe Woods' defense thus far, is like, it's kind of basic. And when they've tried to do stuff that's changing coverages, maybe some different blitzes, like they can't communicate in the back end to be able to get it done, and then you leave their best player against the Buffalo Bills wide open in the back of the end zone. And so I think maybe what the philosophy becomes then a little bit is you can take more chances because you know that, hey, so what? We gave up a quick touchdown. Our guy on the other side, he's going to go get a quick touchdown and give it back to us. So, like, it just changes how you think of the game and how the game flows when you have that dude at quarterback.
Let me just ask, because you said something there, but, we can be more exotic or this, that, whatever, and we end up with blown coverages. Like, and you tell me if I'm wrong. This is me thinking about it as an outside person who is, I've been around the team, but I've never been in the locker room and the terminology and going through the meetings and the whiteboards and all of this, that. But, and maybe it's different offense and defense, but like they've played cover 3 and cover 4 and cover 2 and cover 6 and man and all of those things their whole lives. They've played. They know the specific rules for each one of those defenses in this defense because it's been the same for the last 3 years. So you should know exactly what you're supposed to do when somebody goes to motion and then 1, 2, 3 goes from the left side to the right side or whatever it is. How does this keep happening, or do I have it wrong? Are there and I know there are so many nuances that happen based on a pre-snap motion or based on if somebody hits to 10 yards as opposed to 15 yards on their route depth. But these are things that we've been doing for 3 years for a lot of these guys, right?
Yeah, and first of all, it shouldn't happen, right? So me trying to explain it is not excusing it. It's inexcusable. However, the way that NFL defenses are called, like your personnel grouping, so let's just say it's AFC or whatever they call a defense that's coming in from the sideline. That doesn't necessarily say, okay, it's cover 3 no matter what. Like basically that's saying this week we're going to do this coverage if they are in this shift or this formation.
Sure.
And as that changes, they have to communicate the change in coverage, the change in blitz. So like you may have a blitz called, but if they get into a certain formation or they motion a certain way, it may be called off, because the reason you do that is you're going through the tendencies during the week as you're developing your game plan, and you're saying, hey, we really like these defenses versus this
These
formation
looks.
or this
Yep.
shift, because they've got these 3 plays that we've seen that they'll run out of this, and versus those 3 plays we're really comfortable running, let's say, cover 4, or we really want to blitz into that because they don't really have a good answer versus that. But as they move and as they change, like, you have to communicate the changes that are game plan specific for that week based on the offense's tendencies and how your defense matches up versus those tendencies. And we've really struggled in communicating when things change, which is normal. Like you mentioned, they know how to run cover 3, they know cover 4, they know cover 2, they know man, they know Robert, they know all those things. But the problem has been, as they change based on the game plan, those communications are not being delivered, and communications is always a two-way street. Somebody's got to give it, somebody's got to receive it.
Yep.
And I think that's part of the reason why you've heard last week where the defense specifically was getting together and trying to have some players only meetings to make sure that they're on the same page, that they understand the game plan. Because when I was there, we had a bunch of different defensive coordinators, and they'd put in a lot of good defenses, and then as you run them through the week, if they screwed them up and the players weren't able to communicate it, or some guy missed it, they would just throw that out. And then you lose that advantage that you're building in from a schematic standpoint. So the communication is what has been killing them based on what the changes are from a game plan specific standpoint.
OBM, the official printer partner of the Cleveland Browns. When you depend on your Browns to win, you depend on OBM. They can tackle any size office at 216-485-2000 or ohiobusinessmachines.com. And also our friends at Rumpke Waste and Recycling, family-owned and operated. Whether you join them as a customer or as an employee, you'll become part of the family. Visit rumpke.com to learn more. We'll go around the NFL landscape, get Hoff's Thanksgiving treats coming up next as well. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Fans of Browns defense recorded 2 sacks yesterday. That means you win a free appetizer today at participating Northeast Ohio Buffalo Wild Wings location. Terms and conditions apply. Buffalo Wild Wings, the greatest of all times. Tom Brady and the Buccaneers coming in here on Sunday at 1 o'clock. I would assume it's his final appearance in Cleveland, but with him, who in the heck ever knows? Hoff, do you have a favorite memory or interaction with Tom through the years?
You know, he never would come to the Pro Bowl, so I haven't got a chance to really get to know him all that well. I mean, we played him a few times. I would share pleasantries. I think my favorite memory, though, is when Colt McCoy was our starting quarterback, and they came to Cleveland. I think Eric Mangini was still our coach, and we smoked them. I mean, it was a molly-whopping, I want to say 33 to something. We ran all over them, and he got an opportunity tonight to watch Colt McCoy again for the Arizona Cardinals, I think. I think he's going to be starting in that game in Mexico City. So
he is.
My dad's fired up. Yeah, he's fired up for tonight.
Is he?
Oh, yeah.
Should be a fun one. I love watching those international games.
Yeah, it should be a good environment down there. Absolutely. Yeah, and Tom Brady. So I was talking with Chase Winovich, who was with him his rookie season. He's like, we were like spirit brothers because of Michigan and all of that. But he would very much like to sack him. I think that'd bring Chase great joy.
Yeah,
which would be a lot of fun.
I got 2 things for you, Hoff. Number one, you're playing for an axe this week for Wisconsin. How heavy is that axe? And how important is that a season saver for the Badgers?
I think it would be. You know, strangely enough, when I was there, and it seemed like the 10 years before and after, we always whooped Minnesota. There was no question who was the better program. But last couple of years, Minnesota's really surged, and obviously Wisconsin's gone in the wrong direction. Unfortunately, we were a bunch of frauds. I mean, we barely beat Nebraska this weekend. But I was happy to get the win. And we got an opportunity to get the axe back. That'll be a big one. I think for Jimmy Leonard, they're bowl eligible, and he's hoping to be able to get that job. I'd love to see him get the full-time job next season and have an opportunity to show what he's got as a head coach. He was the coach in waiting, and it just happened a little quicker than we all expected. But certainly it would mean a lot to finish with a big win, finish and go into the bowl with a win against your biggest rival, bring that axe home. And to your point about how heavy is the axe, so it's interesting, like the handle, it's huge. It's like 4 feet long. Right. The handle's actually pretty heavy, but the axe head itself is not a normal metal steel axe. The head it's wood. It's painted wood. So it's much more balanced and lighter than you would expect had it been like a full-on 12-inch metal head. But I think they did that because it might be a little dangerous, because dudes really do swing that thing around when they're
that's true,
parading around the field after capturing the axe from your opponent.
Hoff, if Jim Leonard gets that, is he going to try to convince you to come share your knowledge with the offensive line of the Badgers?
He can sure try. I don't think he's going to be very successful.
Hoff, we'll get you out of here on this one.
Yeah.
What's your Thanksgiving look like? Where are we at? What turkeys? How are we preparing? What else are you doing along with the turkey? What are the MVP sides? Give us a little outlook.
Yeah, Daddy's always in charge of the turkey. Mom loves Thanksgiving. It's like her favorite holiday because she starts in the kitchen at 8 a.m. and she does everything except for the turkey. That's my role. And forever I was a deep fried turkey, which is still elite. It's still exceptional. But I actually moved away from doing the deep fry just because, I don't know if you guys have heard, but it gets pretty chilly in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And standing outside over a deep fryer for an hour and a half or 2 hours, well, it gives you a good reason to drink some beers. I miss too much football, and now that I'm not as tough as I used to be, or I'm not even tough at all, I don't love standing out in the cold as much. So after a few years of trial and error, I've come to this conclusion that the way to make everybody in the family the happiest is I sous vide a couple turkey breasts, which makes them perfect. I don't even finish them. I just sous vide them and then just slice them, and it makes them absolutely perfect for those people that just like a nice, moist, delicious, melt in your mouth turkey breast. I take the skin and I bake it in the oven, and it gets real flat and crispy.
Smart.
And then we break it up into like little iceberg pieces, which is really good because then people can kind of put those on their plate if they like the skin. That makes the kids and some of the women folk happy. And then I take the legs and the wings and then I throw them on the smoker for like 3.5
Oh,
hours. So
God.
internal
He's done
temperature's
it.
like 170. Baste them with butter a couple times towards the end.
Yeah.
And then the men folk who like the dark meat, who like a smoked flavor, which me personally, that's what I go for. I'll just grab a whole leg.
Yeah.
And one of the wings myself.
I go to
and it
Disney
seems-
just to get a smoked turkey leg. People think
That's
they
right.
go for the
And-
ride. No, I'm there for the smoked turkey leg.
That's right.
Probably more
Yeah.
economical way to do it, though.
Yeah.
I need to come up with.
Yeah. So I'm interested to hear you guys. This is something that was new to me, but there's some people in my family, I'm not going to name any names, Annie, that don't like the smoked flavor.
What?
Yeah.
And so, yeah,
That
it's
happens.
weird. Like they won't drink scotch because of the smokiness, and they don't like a lot of the smoked meats. Like if you sous vide and then smoke, it doesn't add a lot of smoky flavor. But my offset smoker at the farm where we're going to be cooking, we're using real wood, so it makes it real smoky.
Yeah.
A great char on the outside, and I love it. I mean, people
Yeah.
that like smoke, it's unbelievable. It's
I
elite.
love
you
it.
can't screw it up. Oh, it's the best. And so it just kind of keeps everybody happy, and that's how we've come after several years of trial and error. That's how we've come to make everybody happy on Thanksgiving.
I want to pick a you with
Sounds
a turkey
perfect.
leg, Hoff.
Yeah, we
That's what
gotta
I
see
want.
it.
Don't worry, buddy.
Happy Thanksgiving,
Don't
brother.
worry.
Sharon. Happy Thanksgiving, guys. Thanks for having me on.
All right, the great Hoff. Hey, Browns fans, enter for your chance to win Brown season tickets, free Milkbone dog treats for a year and more, all courtesy of Milkbone. Check them out at your local Meijer. So much more to come. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Browns preview show tonight, 7 to 8, University Hospital's Cleveland Browns Radio Network. The voice of the Browns, Jim Donovan, joins Ken and Gerard on the show tonight. And we have a score, Gibbe.
49ers, Cardinals, Mexico.
30.
Cervezas, por favor.
This was 8. It's up to 10.
It's up to 10.
Yeah.
Nerd.
Go, Pedro.
I think so. I actually do think that they will.
Me too.
I think they'll do it. Do it huge. Ram it.
Big
Niners. Yeah, by 30.
Yeah, bigly. Bigly from the Ramets. Let's get it done. We're back tomorrow from the Food Bank.
Food Bank, kids.
You have to look forward to, which is nice. The next level is next. Thanks for listening, everybody. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland.